Hey folks, and welcome to another West Yorkshire Retro game. I record a video here on YouTube. And the Leeds United 2024-2025 return list has been announced on the Leeds United official website. And I've taken the list directly from there. So it is a little stretched, apologies for that, but I will read out everything. I think everything's just about legible, so it should be okay. So I'll just go through every player and give my thoughts on what has transpired. So starting at the top, this was going to be one of the key parts of the return list that was going to be needed to be looked at, and I'm very pleased with this. I think it's very wise, very sensible business. There was times last season where Daniel Farke said that the squad lacked experience, and when Sam Byram was fit, he played well. You can see that he has championship quality when he's fit. There's no doubt about that. So for Sam to have what has gone on here, I'm very happy about. So it basically says the following player has triggered a 1-year extension clause within his contract, which means that the original 1-year deal that Sam signed at the start of last season had a clause in it where if he was to prove his fitness, that he could at least play like half a season, which he basically did, or more, then he would have that option to trigger an extension. You know, he'll be 31 going into the new season. That kind of experience is going to be required. And as I say, when he's fit, a very good player at this level. So and you know, he came through Leeds' youth ranks. He knows what the club's about, knows what the fans are about. Got around the dressing room from what I've heard. So yeah, for me, that one, thumbs up all the way. The following players will be released when their contracts expire, which I assume that certainly for the majority of these contracts it will be at the end of June. Charlie Allen. Now this is a surprise. I thought Charlie Allen looked very promising in the under-21s. Very pacey, likes to attack, likes to get at the opposition. A very useful player. He's had a couple of niggling injuries this season, but when he's played for the last couple of seasons, you can see there's some raw talent there. So I thought Charlie would have been given another year. I really did. That's quite a surprise. That's a shake-up, is that, for me. So unless I just wonder if maybe the medical team has possibly looked at that, and maybe, you know, maybe that's what's gone on there. That maybe the medical staff feel that he's not going to be fit enough going into the new season, or that it's just a bit of a shake-up. But that is a surprise. I mean, I'd love it if my hometown team of Halifax was to snap him up on a free transfer like they got Jack Jenkins. I think Charlie Allen had ripped the conference up, I really do. With that kind of pace. Charlie Allen will be snapped up by a League 2 team, I think. Or a team higher up and put in their under-21s. I think he is still under-21. I think he's 20. So yeah, all the best, Charlie. As I say, I think Charlie Allen looked good in the under-21s, but clubs decided not to extend that deal for him. So yeah, I wish him all the best. And as I say, that'd be a great shout for Halifax. He'd be a superb winger in the conference, I think. Moving on to Luke Ayling, we pretty much knew what was happening with Luke anyway. He was if he hasn't already. I'm pretty sure he's signed like a pre-contract agreement with Middlesbrough. So all the best, Luke. Fantastic professional throughout his time at Leeds. For a lot of his career at Leeds, was the first choice right back. Only really Gaetano Berardi providing that competition, and then obviously this season Sam Byram for the first half of the season when obviously Luke was still at the club. I think he's played about 8 years at Leeds and had some very memorable moments, and wish him all the best. And he proved at the end of this season just gone that he can be very effective for Middlesbrough. So yeah, all the best, Luke. Just hope you don't play against Leeds. Lewis Bate. Such a strange time for Lewis Bate at Leeds. Had all that hype when we signed him, all that potential, and it just hasn't worked out for him. He had a loan in League Two with MK Dons this last season just gone, and you know he's. I think Bate is 21 now, so that's probably why they've not offered him an extension. He needed to show enough to get into the first team, but I can't see him going to League Two again this next season. I think it's better than that. I think a League One team will snap him up as one of their first choice players, and it'd be a decent pickup in League One, I think, for a first team in League One. So yeah, good luck, Lewis. It's just not worked out at Leeds. Keenan Carroll, another one like Charlie Allen, who looked very promising in the youth setup. Quite versatile as well. Again, another one that's had some injury problems in recent times, and again another one that I feel would be a great pickup for Halifax. I think Carroll would be a very good player in the conference. So again, maybe something that Halifax can look at. There's going to be a few that I mention here that I think could fit in really well at Halifax if something could be done. As I say, they've already picked up Jack Jenkins, who came through the Leeds ranks and has proven to be a good player at conference level. So yeah, Keenan Carroll, the son of former Leeds player Seb Carroll. I thought he was another that looked pretty good when he played in the youth teams at Leeds. So all the best, Keenan. And as I say, Halifax. On to Stewie Dallas. Everyone knows what's happened there, obviously. He's had to announce his retirement. Very sad way for him to have to retire as well, with that long-term injury. That injury was described as the equivalent of a car crash. The strongest bone in the body that he broke, and it would take the equivalent of a car crash to break it, and he broke it. The fact that he's walking again is a minor miracle. So, I wish Stuart Dallas all the very, very best. Again, had about 5 or 6 seasons with Leeds, I think, that he played at least anyway. Would have been about 8 seasons, about the same as maybe 7. I think he signed a season after Ailing. Roughly speaking, anyway. But a great time at Leeds. Getting them 2 goals against Manchester City being one of the highlights for Stewie Dallas. Amazing versatility, would play anywhere on the pitch. So absolute fair play to Stuart Dallas. Wish him all the very best in whatever he decides to do going forward. He may be injured and maybe on a road to recovering so that he can live a normal life. But there's nothing stopping him getting back into football if he desires to, in some kind of coaching, managerial, sporting director, scouting, some kind of capacity like that. So yeah, we'll see what happens with Stuart Dallas there, but for the minute, he's retired. Cuba Dibbo, I can only imagine he's one of the youngsters. Might be even under 18s level. Don't think he ever got to under 21 level. Can't really say very much on him. Never featured at under 21s as far as I remember. Moving on to Scott Godden. Now he did feature in the under 21s at one point. Looked reasonable, but again another one that had a bad injury. And never really got back into the youth setup at that point. So all the best to Scott Godden, but yeah, he'll need to. I think Godden maybe needs to find a club where he maybe plays a year of youth football to get back fit again, and then maybe push to get a place in a conference conference team or something like that, perhaps, and play his trade there, and see where he goes from there, perhaps. Ian Pervader, obviously he's just reached that age now where he's not a kid anymore. He spent quite a bit of time on loan at Sheffield Wednesday and looked quite good when he was fit. There are talks that Pervader is going to return to Sheffield Wednesday. I think Wednesday were quite keen on him. And on his day, when he's fit, he can be a tricky little player. Certainly a player that could hack it at Championship level, I think. If you get him fit and get him in form, he could be a very decent Championship player, Ian Pervader. He's got all the tricks. He's a typical tricky winger. Quite low centre of gravity, quite pacey, quite tricky, quite skillful. So he'll be a good pickup for another Championship team. And as I say, I think he'd be quite happy to go to Sheffield Wednesday, as they played some time there. Danny Roll, their manager, seemed quite happy with him, and fans seem to like him. And he's just someone. He offers something a bit different that the other players in that club probably don't have. So yeah, all the best, Ian. Again, just don't play against Leeds. Moving on to Morton Spencer, another one who looked quite useful in the youth team. Yeah, maybe just again he was another that had quite reasonable versatility, and he spent quite a few years in the Leeds youth setup, and yeah, again he's another that I thought looked quite good, and again could be a good pickup for Halifax. So yeah, all the best, Morton. I don't think Morton ever really nailed down a place in the under 21s. He was a regular feature in the under 18s, but was a little 50-50 in the under 21s. So maybe that's why he's not reached the kind of level that we needed him to. But yeah, as I say, it could be a very useful pickup for Halifax. Harvey Sutcliffe. I had high hopes for Sutcliffe. I thought he looked very good. He had a horrendous season-long injury, if I remember, a season or two ago. But the young fullback has I thought really showed a lot of promise. I really did. I mean, if Halifax could tempt Sutcliffe, that's a great pickup. That's a great pickup for Halifax if they can persuade Harvey Sutcliffe. Yeah, I think Sutcliffe and Allen, out of these young ones that have been released, I'd say that Sutcliffe and Allen have probably got the best chance of forging a decent career for themselves in football. Very decent fullback for me was Harvey Sutcliffe, and as I say, it's great that he's recovered from the injury. It's got to be horrible for a young player, a teenage player at the time, to pick up such a bad injury, and the fact that he's come back to fitness and showed in glimpses this season that he can still play. It's got to be very pleasing for him. It'd be disappointing for all of these players that aren't staying on. Some of them will have spent a long time at Leeds and obviously want that opportunity to impress and to forge a career in football. I'd have loved to have forged a career in football, but I was never good enough. Simple as that. I love playing, but I was just never good enough. So I can totally understand. Where these certainly these kid players are probably thinking right now. They'll be wondering what their next move is, but I'm sure they'll find other clubs. But yeah, all the best, Harvey. I think you'll be a great pickup for Halifax or wherever else you go. And finally, Danny van den Heuvel, the young Dutch goalkeeper. He had a very nasty accident. Again, we've already talked about car crashes. Well, I believe that Van den Heuvel was possibly, I think it was a car crash he was involved in. He got a horrendous injury. But again, came back, got himself fit. Fair play to the kid. He's just never gonna trouble Leeds' current goalkeepers. In terms of being good enough, he just never. Kind of reminded me of Elia Capri, a young Italian goalkeeper that we had at one point. Not a bad goalie, just never good enough for the first team. Generally speaking, if we're going to be realistic about it. It wouldn't surprise me if Van den Heuvel maybe picks up a contract in the Eredivisie. With one of the, maybe one of the bottom half teams in the Eredivisie and makes himself the number one goalkeeper there. I think he could do that, or certainly a top team in the Dutch second division. I could see that happening. Not a bad player, just nowhere near. He's not going to trouble Melier. That's the way you got to look at it. How, and again, with these young players on this list, how close are they to troubling the first team positions against the players we currently have? And if we're going to be truthful about this list that are going to be leaving at the end of June, none of them are. So, none of them are huge losses long term. Well, certainly not short term. They're not huge losses. Some of them could go on to be good players. But, the time right now is just not for them. But again, all the best to Danny. Hope he does well, and I'm sure he'll pick up another club. As I say, I see similarities between him and Capriel ended up, I think, joining Barry in Serie B. So it wouldn't surprise me if a lower end Eredivisie team picks up Danny van den Heuvel, and a very decent pickup he'll be for them, I'm sure. Moving on to the following players have been offered new contracts by the club. Now this really opened my eyes up here. I'll get on to it. Firstly, Harry Christie, obviously with Danny van den Heuvel going, the club's obviously looking now at seeing if Harry Christie, can really push on to be, one of the three goalkeepers in the first team. Christie has captained the under 18s and under 21s before, and I'm quite happy with the club offering Christie a new deal. I hope he accepts it. So this was the surprising one. Cody Drameh, a player who has, at times when we signed him from Fulham and put him in the under 21s, at times looked quite decent. He then had a couple of low moves, and he got, player of the season for both of the teams that he was loaned out to. He got some opportunities under Marcelo Bielsa, and failed. And when he played for the Leeds first team, he looked awful. He made a couple of clangers that really ruined any chance that he had of making it in the Leeds first team. So, Cody Drameh now, I think he's approximately the same age as Jamie Shackleton, and Shackleton's going to be 24 going into this new season. And I just wonder if Drameh is the same. And the reason that I bring up the age situation is because if you're a player that's 23 or under, then it works differently, like contractually and trying to negotiate fees for players and things like that. It avoids that once they turn 24. It works differently. I don't know the exact facts behind it all, but there is absolutely no way, in my opinion, that Cody Drameh should ever wear a Leeds shirt again. His attitude is dire, and that set of claws going into my neck is exceedingly painful. Kirby, give over. If you have to be on that shoulder, get your sodding balance, girl. Sorry about this, folks, but cat claws going into side of neck, exceedingly painful. Anyway, right. So the only reason that I can think that the club are offering Cody Drameh a new deal is because of that, so that we can negotiate some kind of fee rather than it going to a tribunal, which is what I think happens when a player is 23 or younger, and then the tribunal, we'd probably get about half what we paid for him. We paid about £1 million for him. We'd probably get about 500,000 back. So with the fact that this has been put to Drameh, if he accepts it, then the club will then be able to sell him for at least what we paid for him, which obviously then helps FFP. But surely there's no way back for him. Surely not. I don't want to see him in a Leeds shirt. His attitude, if he was good enough, then Marcelo Bielsa would have played him. And he chose not, and when he did give Drameh a chance, he didn't take it. He didn't succeed. So for me, it's the most bizarre thing on the entire list. So I can only assume that it's because of the age situation and that Leeds want to try and get some money back for Drameh. I honestly believe if Drameh signs that deal, he's been offered a new contract, he doesn't have to accept it. Drameh could leave on a free and could walk away and Leeds get nothing for him. And that'll be Drameh's prerogative. And I think that's probably what he'll do. I don't think, unless Leeds are offering him big money, which I can't understand why they would. It's the strangest thing on the entire list. So I can only put it down to that reason. Anyway, moving on. Joe Snowden, again, has had some injury problems, but looks a very promising player when he's fit. Looks very promising. So if Snowden accepts a new deal and plays another season in the under-21s with the view of trying to break into the first team, then I don't have any problem with that. I don't have a problem with Christie signing the new deal. I don't have a problem with Snowden if he signs a new deal. So fair play to both of them, and well done on both of them for being offered new contracts. Which would be professional deals, and they would be classed as young professionals. Without a shadow of a doubt. And finally, Luca Thomas. Bit of a breakthrough season for Thomas at under 21 level. He was very effective in the under 18s. I don't think Thomas has been that great in the under 21s, if truth be told. I don't want to sound harsh, he's a young player. And he's got the physique for it. He's a strong lad. I just think he needs to decide what his best position is, and he needs to really knuckle down and work hard on several aspects of his game. I'm all for young British talent. Signing new deals in the youth team. I want Leeds to have a flourishing youth setup. Because they've had one for years. And it's only right that these young players get a chance, and you get chances at Leeds United. As long as they've got the right staffing involved to give them these chances. So there's still lots and lots of time for Luca Thomas, to improve. I just feel that maybe out of all the players that stepped up from under 18s to under 21s this season, just feel Thomas maybe lacked a little bit of what some of the others had. Bit more pressure on Thomas because he is an attacking player. He'll be people will be looking at him with a view of him scoring goals and assisting goals and things like that. And I just feel it was maybe a bit of a step up too much this year. But he'll learn a lot, hopefully. And I do wish Harry Christie, Joe Snowden and Luca Thomas all the very best in this up and coming season. Big season for them all. Big season for those three. Because they will have to be three of the shining lights in the under 21s going forward this new season. And again, there's going to be more under 18s that are going to be promoted to the under 21s. So those three will have to show leadership and maturity for their age, and be focal points in that under 21 team. They'll be vitally important. I mean, Christie now will obviously be the first choice under 21 goalkeeper now that Van den Heuvel's gone. So the gloves are definitely on the hands of Christie now. And as I say, Snowden, very effective midfielder, and Thomas, another season at under 21 level. I think that could help him quite a bit. But I do feel he's a little bit behind Snowden and Christie. Not much. And I think he is slightly younger than both of them, so again, he's got time. So we'll see. We'll see when it comes to Luca Thomas. I feel he's one of these now that's probably too good for the under 18s and probably not quite there for the under 21s just yet. But we'll see. We'll see. So, moving on to this next pair, which again is two senior players that the contracts were running out. So the club is in talks with the following players about extending their contracts. So the first one is a little surprising. Liam Cooper. He's completed a decade at Leeds United. Only really had one season where he was completely out of the picture, and that was the season where we had some centre-backs that were comfortably ahead of him. And then this most recent season where again he's really been used as a backup centre-back. So in terms of getting playing time, I don't think Cooper's going to get any more playing time this next season as what he got this season. If anything, it'll be slightly less. But I think that one of the reasons the club will have offered Liam Cooper a contract is to give him the send-off that he deserves, and that send-off being a season of promotion. I believe that's the primary trigger for offering Liam Cooper a contract. We don't really want Cooper leaving on a season where we've failed to gain promotion. It'd be great for him to have one more opportunity to get his hands on that trophy and get promoted again. That that'd be a lovely send off for for Captain Cooper. And again, his influence in the dressing room will be vital. Even if he's not playing, he'll be able to to guide and nurture the younger players that are going to be in the squad. There's players that have already spoken about how influential Liam Cooper is. Charlie Cresswell's one of them, and also a fellow. He's a fellow centre back. So, and I don't see it as a bad thing. If Cooper decides to accept it, and obviously has to accept that he's not going to get game time. I'd play him in the cups. Let's not just waste him. Utilise him in the cup games, because then that means then that whichever centre backs we're using in the league are not going to get, they're not going to get burnt out, by playing cup games as well. So I definitely use Cooper in the cup games, and then at the end of the season, as long as we've kind of secured a top 2 place, why not let him finish the season on a high by wearing that armband one more time in the league, and having the chance to celebrate, finish on a high at Leeds United. I think those are the primary reasons the club, they're basically trying to do right by Cooper. If we assume that the contract is fairly similar to what he's on at the minute, which is a relatively low contract now compared to some of the others. It'll still be enough for him to, obviously, for him and his young family to go on. Footballing contracts, even lower end ones in the Championship, are still still good money at the end of the year, aren't they? And as I say, what a servant to the club. He's a Leeds fan, always has been. He always tries his best. I mean, Christ, we know that Cooper's got a clanger in him, and he has done for ages. But at the same time, he lives and breathes and bleeds Leeds United, and you can't ask for more than that from a player. And look at the number of times that not just managers but his fellow players have voted for Cooper to continue to be captain every single season. That speaks volumes. That speaks volumes for the type of guy that he is, the type of leader he is. And again, I think he's been offered it so that his experience, it's just going to influence the rest of the team. I think Farke's worried about losing that leadership that Cooper brings to the squad. And again, at Championship level, can probably still do a job as a backup. Let's not kid ourselves here. You can't just let that kind of experience go, especially with Ayling going. Who again is another one that's fantastic in the dressing room in terms of keeping the squad morale high and just offering that leadership. And Cooper's got that in bucket loads, hasn't he? So I think these are the reasons why they've offered Cooper another contract. I don't see it being more than a 1-year extension, if I'm honest. I think it's just to tide Cooper over, to see Leeds get promoted again, and then he can leave on a high. And then and in that time he can be studying to become a sporting director, which I think is the direction he wants to go in. I don't think he wants to coach or manage at this stage. I think he's got his heart set on becoming a sporting director. So fair play to him. Absolutely fair play to him. So we'll see what happens with Cooper there. He's still got to accept it. Whatever the deal is that's on the table for him, he's still got to accept it. And again, if he wants to become a sporting director, learn under the two that we've got already. In Nick Hammond and Greta Steinson. Learn under those two lads and learn what it's like, in that kind of field, So we'll see. As I say, he still has to accept the thing. But again, I'm okay with him being offered it, because he's not going to be offered a mega bucks contract compared to some of the other players. He'll be offered pretty much what he's on already, I would imagine, which isn't one of the higher end contracts. So I don't have a problem with The next one I'm happy about, Jamie Shackleton, and I hope he accepts it. I hope he accepts the contract that's on offer for him because he's versatile. He's just had very bad luck with injuries and illness this season. And the thing is that with us losing Dallas, who was another versatile player, Farker likes versatile players, and Farker said as well, partway through this season just gone, that he would make sure that the club looks after Jamie, and they've obviously done that by putting some kind of contract offer on the table for him. So I really hope that Jamie accepts it, and I hope that Jamie can force his way into that squad and play some games. There's no reason why he shouldn't play all the cup games. And again, he's got some stiff competition for the midfield, but he's that versatile. He can cover fullback, he can cover the wings, he can cover anywhere. He's just like Dallas. The only positions he can't cover is goalkeeper and centre back. That's about it, literally. So for a player that is that versatile and still only going to be 24 going into the new season. He's still young, can still get a bit better than what he is already. And if he stays fit, I think it's a very useful player at this level. I really do. So, Jamie, accept what they've offered you, lad. I want to see you fighting for a first team shirt there. Yeah, and it's a great option to have on the bench as well, isn't it? It covers so many positions. If brought on at the right moments, and if he is starting the game on the bench, he's the kind of player that can, he's got the pace to, if he plays fullback, he's got the pace to overlap with the winger. Can be very effective going forward. He's got that pace, that ball control, low centre of gravity, very tricky player. As I say, his natural position is midfield. He's obviously got some immense competition for midfield spots, but again, I just feel that versatility, would be very, very useful for Leeds this up and coming season. So I'm very pleased the club have offered him a new contract, and I hope he accepts it. So it then goes on to say the following players will return to their parent club following the conclusion of their loans. So we've got Jadon Anthony, Connor Roberts and Joe Rodon. No surprises there. I think Areola, the Bournemouth manager, has suggested that Jadon Anthony might actually have a future at Bournemouth, so that's up to him and up to Anthony. It's up to him to decide. I mean, Jadon's had such a dramatic and traumatic year. He's done well to get through the remainder of this season and still make himself available. So fair play to the kid. Fair play to him. He's only 24 and he's lost his mum. That's awful. Absolutely awful. So I really do wish Jadon Anthony all the very best. He didn't get a lot of games at Leeds, and sometimes he looked all right. I think he finished with a goal and an assist. But he never, he was up against such stiff competition for the wing positions, wasn't he? And he only really joined us because we ended up losing Sinistera at the end of the transfer window, and we didn't want to find ourselves short on the wings, did we? So that's why Jadon Anthony came in on loan, and he had some championship pedigree from his last time in the championship. So I think that's why the club brought him in. Do I think that the club will try and bring him back in for this season? I doubt it. Unless we lose, both Somerville and Nonto, and maybe Rutter as well. I can't see Anthony coming back again. Connor Roberts, for the brief time that he got some games, looked pretty good actually. But his parent club Burnley have gotten relegated, and it would make sense for Burnley to play him. He just had he had a few niggling injuries. if the option to bring Roberts back, was a thing, if it was available, I'd get him back, at least on loan anyway. Because when he did play, he looked good. Again, I think he got 1 goal and 1 assist in the games that he played. So yeah, I'd definitely consider having Connor Roberts back. And then finally, Joe Rodon, the most influential of those three as far as the season is concerned. An extremely capable centre back at this level. Very, very, very good centre back at this level. He can carry the ball. Good strong physical presence. The only thing that Rodon didn't do this season just gone was score a goal, which was really surprising when you consider that physical stature that he has as a centre back. Never scored a goal. That was a real surprise to me. I thought he'd get his head on the ball and get a goal or two, this season. It's really surprising that he hasn't got one. And obviously staying down in the Championship now. And here's the thing as well: Tottenham have actually given him a new deal, or extended his deal by another year. And the only reason they've done that is so they can get more money. There's no other reason for it, because otherwise why would you let him go out on loan in the first place? He's not in the manager's plans. And we know what Daniel Levy is like, in terms of, he's so business orientated, and will do anything and everything to make sure that Tottenham Hotspur get as much money for their players as possible. And so this is the reason that they've triggered whatever extension or whatever contract is available to Rodon at Spurs. But again, I don't see Rodon's future being at Tottenham Hotspur. So if the opportunity for Leeds to buy him, for somewhere around 10 to 12 million, if that's viable for the rules that Leeds have to play under, being in the Championship again, then we'd have to go for it. I mean, again, we could initially try and loan him again. If we could get him on loan again, that's a great bit of business for Leeds. But I honestly don't see it. I think Spurs just want shut of him. But they want to make sure that they get all the money they can get for him. And other clubs will want him. After the season that he's had with Leeds, I think other clubs will come sniffing and other clubs will come bidding for Joe Rodon. But he has expressed how happy he was at Leeds, and getting to play with 3 other Welsh internationals as well. It just felt very homely for him. And I mean, again, I wouldn't have a problem having all 4 of the Welsh boys back at Leeds for this next coming season. But again, only time will tell on that one. So moving on, the following scholars have been offered professional contracts. This is a fantastic day for all of these young lads. Their dream of becoming a professional footballer has now been realised, and now it's down to these lads to decide if Leeds is the home for them, at least for the next couple of years anyway. So Connor Douglas, Ruben Lapara-White, Joseph Richards, Daniel Tolson and Marley Wilson. They've all had really good seasons at under 18 and under 21 level this season. Marley Wilson is a beast, an absolute beast. I really, out of that list, I really, really, really hope that Marley Wilson signs that contract. That kid's going to be a player. He's going to be an absolute player, is that kid. Like, he will literally out-muscle centre-backs as he gets older and even more physically imposing. But he is a beast. So, he was so unlucky to pick up the injury that he got, so that he couldn't play for the under-18s in the competitions they were in this season. But I've seen Wilson play, and I really like the look of him. I think he's going to be an absolute beast. So I hope Marley accepts what's been put on the table for him. Toulson looks very capable. Has held the captain's armband for the under-18s at times. You know, seems to play. You know, he can play in defence or he can play in that defensive midfield role. So yeah, I'd be quite happy for Dan Toulson to accept. Joe Richards looks a decent. I think he played fullback. Joe Richards, if I remember. So you know, we're definitely in need of, you know, bringing through, you know, some good-looking prospects for the, you know, for the fullback position. So yeah, a good choice there. Ruben Lopata-White has looked very, very useful at centre back, and with the likes of Chris Moore and Jeremiah Mullen getting towards the end of their time as a youth player. You know, it's Lopata-White and players like that we need to look at, obviously bringing through and having that opportunity. So again, no issues there. He had a very, very good season. And then Connor Douglas, I think Connor Douglas played fullback, if I remember. Either fullback or on the wing, something like that. And again, look pretty good, if I remember serves me right. So I have no issue. I have no issue with any of those being offered. You know, being offered an opportunity to be a professional footballer. As I say, a couple of real standout players there. You know, Lopata-White's getting all the rave reviews that you'd expect, and Marley Wilson, if he gets fit, my God, you know, he could really, really shine. So yeah, we'll see what happens there. Good times though. You know, good times for these. You know, for these 5 players. You know, what an opportunity. You know, they've worked hard for that. They've earned that. They've earned that opportunity to be offered the chance to be a professional footballer. And you know, what a club to start their professional career at. I mean, Leeds United. Great opportunity. Especially whilst Leeds aren't in the Premier League, you know, there's going to be more chance for them to get closer and closer and closer to that first team squad, if at all possible. And I'd say out of those 5, I'd say Wilson's the closest. I don't think any of them are anywhere near the first team right now, but if all 5 of those get another season in the under-21s, season after, you never know. And then finally, the following scholar has had a 3rd-year scholarship option activated, and that is Oscar Dober. Now, out of all of these players on this entire list, there is only him and Cuba Dibbo that I don't really know anything about. But you know, again, congratulations to Oscar, and he will. You know, we'll see what he can do. You know, he must still be young enough for the under-18s. I don't remember him featuring in the under-21s, so he'll still be young enough to play his trade in the under-18s and see what he can do. But there we have it. So that is the Leeds United 2024-2025 season retained list. Overall, I'm quite happy with it. You know, I don't have an issue with any of it really, apart from the whole Drame thing, which I find very weird. But again, I have to assume it's for the reasons I mentioned earlier. So, with all that in mind, I'm just seeing how long this... Oh my word, it's approaching 50 minutes. I never seem to be able to do short videos with these recorded videos. Especially when talking about Leeds United. But I love talking about Leeds United. It's my team, it's my club. Love them. I'll support Leeds United through thick and thin. So, with all that in mind, do please show the support by subscribing to the channel if you haven't done already. Do please give this video a thumbs up by hitting the like button. And, you know, if you're a Leeds fan, give your comments. You know, leave your opinions in the comments down below. Is the club right in doing what they're doing with all of these players? I don't see anything particularly wrong with it. I really don't. I'll say aside from the Germany thing. So with that in mind, big thank you for all the support, and keep your eyes open. There'll be lots more football and lots more video game content coming your way. In the meantime, have a great night. See you in the next one. Bye bye.